and mental health is something that we don't talk about enough. In the black community, well, we're massively overrepresented in the mental health institutions, even more so than in the prisons. And again, these are questions we have to ask. Well, why?
You know, but once you get a control and an understanding of who you are, no one can use you against you. No one can ever use your mental illness against you. You've already spoke about it, so what you got?
The biggest point in life to resolve mental health is like giving a fuck about a person.
Where did you get the courage? I got the courage. The 2 words. I care.
It's Chill Will Radio, where connections will be made, advice will be given, jokes will be told, and things will get real. My name is Willis Cooks, and I'm your host. But understand this show is not meant to be used as a substitute for a relationship with a licensed mental health professional. Enjoy the show, y'all. Okay. Welcome to another episode of Chill Will Radio. Welcome to another episode of Chill Will Radio, man. First and foremost, thank you. Thank you to all of those individuals listening in, man. Thank you to those individuals who will be tuning in from the beginning, to those individuals who will be tuning in towards the middle because they got something going on right now. Thank you to those individuals who will be tuning in today, right now, later on today, tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, next year, the year after that, whenever you're listening, good looking, and even more so, thank you. Thank you to those individuals who won't be listening at all because you haven't caught on yet, but you will catch on eventually. My name is Willis Cooks, and this is Chill World Radio, man, where we're talking all things mental health, the good, the bad, the ugly, the taboo, the not so taboo, the whatever it is, the thing we're supposed to talk about, the things we're not supposed to talk about, all of that good stuff, right? Welcome here to Chill Will Radio, where we will be talking about all that good stuff. Keith, good news. Welcome back. This is funny. So, it's crazy because this happened last weekend too, man. So, I was on for like a good 11 minutes talking. I was going just whoop. And y'all ain't hear none of that because my mic was muted. My mic was muted, man. It's important that we pay attention to everything. Pay attention to as much things as we need to, man. And that actual point right there is going to lead into my self-care piece. But what are we speaking about today before we even get to that segment, man? Today, we're speaking about habits, right? How our habits can lead to, how our habits have an effect on our mental health. How our positive habits have an effect on our mental health. How our negative habits have an effect on our mental health, right? We're speaking about those things because I believe that we could habitually lead ourselves into depression. I believe we could habitually lead ourselves into addiction, right? The things that we're doing now will affect what's going on later on in our life. So before we even get into all of that stuff, how you doing, Willis? What's the deal? What's popping? How was your week, man? My week was really chill. Chill, Will. Really laid back, man. Nothing much going on in the week. It was a lot of just chilling. You know, I got some things going on with my main job. They cutting back on the hours. They got a new CEO. They got to make budget cuts. They switched up the whole little system at the hospital. So now we got to function, you know, how we're going to operate in different type of, how we're going to operate now and things like that. They got a lot of my coworkers stressing, but I'm chilling. Right? I ain't taking it too serious. That point also is going to lead into the self-care piece. You know, I'm still waiting back on the actual job to start. I actually started one job, the private practice gig, and so far so good, right? The individuals who own it, the individuals who actually work there as well, real laid back, real chill, man. Thank you, Terrence, for actually, you know, hooking me up with that. He was the one that referred me to them, man, and so far, so good, right? That practice is actually something I thoroughly appreciate, thoroughly look forward to working with, or whatever it is, because, you know, everything that I preach when it comes to a therapist, not taking therapy take it serious, but not being too serious in therapist, right? Making therapy very, very relaxed and chill. We don't want therapy to be all suit and tie and all super duper, just I don't know, rigid, if that's the right word. We want it to be relaxed. We want the patient to be chill. We want the patient to feel comfortable. We want the patient to feel, patient or client, we want that individual to feel welcome, right? We want that environment to be the most comfortable environment for that actual patient, because these individuals live really chaotic lives throughout the week. Their therapy session doesn't need to be chaotic on no type of level, right? They don't need to go in there thinking, oh, I can't say this thing because my therapist is this professional and he may be judging me, blah, blah, blah. That's not how I rock when it comes to any of my group therapy sessions, when it comes to any of my individual sessions. And I just appreciate that. I just appreciate that the private practice that I'm in right now is giving me that type of vibe. So I thoroughly appreciate that. The other jobs, wait on the background check. Y'all know how that go. I know last week I was talking about I had 3 jobs, but that 3 jobs was turned into 2, right? 3 jobs is turned into 2. Why? So one of the jobs, right, I was only getting hired per diem. All of these jobs are per diem. That job only had 1 per diem opening, and I was going to fill that slot, right? But what had happened is a full-time employee had quit. I don't even say quit, but went down to per diem, so she actually filled in that spot. So the HR lady the actual supervisor, the person who was going to hire me, who did my interview, called me and was like, hey, yo, Willis, we had to give up your spot to this full-time individual, but we have this full-time spot open, benefits and everything. Would you like it? I had to say no. I had to turn down that job because it was just like, it doesn't fit my schedule, right? And I have a lot of jobs, right? And it appears to be a lot solely because it's a lot of things going on, but everything is per diem, right? Per diem in the sense that I can go in pretty much whenever I give them the schedule, right? I need to be able to control my schedule. Some jobs I don't have to go in at all. Other jobs I have to go in at least once every 90 days. Right? So because I have that amount of flexibility within my schedule, within my work schedule, it's easy for me to be able to cut back. It's easy for me to be able to take vacations. It's easy for me to be able to do really whatever I want. It's easy for me to be able to call off and say, hey, yo, I can't really come in today because I got XYZ going on. So per diem gig, it works best for me. It may not work best for everyone else because that's one of the pros of per diem gigs. The con of it is exactly what I'm going through with, my main job, is that when they need to cut back on anything, the first thing that they're going to cut back is hours. And guess who's the first person they're going to look at? You. Because you don't have a set schedule. We're just going to cut your stuff short and all that good stuff. But, it's important to understand that we don't look at things solely because we don't take rejection as they didn't want me, right? It's important that we don't look at rejection as that, right? Because to me, rejection is God's way of saving you from some BS, right? We have to look at rejection as maybe I wouldn't be right for that job, right? Maybe I wouldn't be right for that girl, right? Maybe I wouldn't be able to work well within that environment, right? Because that girl at the bar that you're trying to holler at, that you paying all them drinks for, that bro could be crazy, right? She may be saving you from child support, from an unwanted baby, from issues, from gray hairs, from an STD. She may be saving you from all types of other shit, right? So don't take rejection as that person didn't want me. Always remember, rejection to me, in my eyes, I look at rejection is God's way of saving you from something, because you may not be able to fit well with that person. You may not be able to fit well in that environment. All of that stuff may not work for you, right? So when I had to turn that job down, it wasn't more so, I was heartbroken about, nah. Things are going to happen the way they're supposed to happen. Things are going to happen the way they're supposed to happen, not the way you want them to happen, right? So this was going to happen eventually, right? This was inevitable. I don't know the future, but I have to understand that whatever happens in the future, it's supposed to happen regardless, right? So when it comes to rejection and all these other things, always understand, don't stress either, right? Don't stress, because for me throughout this week, I have been feeling very stressed. I don't really know why, but it was just stress that was just there for no reason. And it was just like, why are you there? And I'm not really the type of person to really get stressed. I always tell myself that I don't believe in stress, but even though stress is real, I always tell myself that I'm not the one to get stressed. I'm not the one to feel overwhelmed. But this week, I just felt overwhelmed for some odd reason. But the important things when it comes to stress, just like when it comes to rejection and anything else, is that things are going to work out regardless, right? Just because you was rejected from that job, or just because you was rejected from that person, it's going to work out at the end of the day. Just because things are a bit overwhelming for you right now, it's going to work out for you at the end of the day, right? At the end of the day, everything's going to work out. Everything's going to work out. And that actually is moving into the self-care piece. So before I even go into that, if you're listening, tuning in, I always want to acknowledge those individuals who are listening in. So, let me know you're here. Let me know what's up. You don't have to say much. Just say, what's up? What's the deal? What's popping? What's going on with you, man? So moving on to the self-care piece, right? I thoroughly believe that this is extremely vital, extremely pivotal, an extremely important thing that we all implement within our self-care piece, right? Some of the most carefree, laid-back individuals, right? They figure out how to laugh at more things, right? So that's the thing I want everyone to implement within their self-care regimen, right? Figure out how to laugh at more things, right? Because at the end of the day, life ain't really that serious, right? I mean, yeah, obviously we might have kids, we got to take it serious, we got jobs, we got careers, we got school, we got all of these other areas of life in which when we're operating within it, we have to take serious. But on the grand scheme of things, let's not take life that serious. Let's not take life that serious, man. Let's figure out how to laugh at more things, right? Because everything that happens to you doesn't really happen to you, right? Everything that happens to you isn't really a personal shot at you, right? It's just the way things are supposed to happen. It's just the way the cookie crumbles, the way the universe goes, and all that other stuff, right? We got to be able to laugh at everything, right? One of the most, I thoroughly appreciate my man Keith. He laughs at everything. I thoroughly appreciate my man Didier. He laughs at everything. My girl, she laughs at everything. I laugh at everything. Like, I talk shit, and I can't be around those individuals who don't like to hear shit talkers because they taking everything too serious. Blah, blah, blah. Well, nah, it's not that real. I'm not trying to hurt you. You're not trying to hurt me. Like, let's just chill. Let's just chill. So one of the things I would thoroughly implement, I thoroughly encourage everyone to implement within their life is to understand how to laugh more. Find ways to laugh more. Find things to laugh at more. Even if you got to try to force yourself to laugh. I don't care. Create that habit. Create that consistent work in trying to figure out how to laugh at everything. Right? Because one of the things that's really going on at work, at my main job, is that all of my coworkers are taking this new change way too serious. Way too serious. It's causing them to stay overtime. It's causing them to get stressed out. All of the social workers are running around the hospital all frantic, and everything is just, But nah, the work is going to get done at the end of the day. If you can't finish it today, finish it tomorrow. And that's just with anything in life. If you can't finish it right now at this moment, it will be there later on. It will be there 5 minutes from now. It will be there tomorrow. Whatever. As long as you're able to meet the deadline in which it is due, don't stress. Obviously, we want to be able to knock things off of our plate and get things done early and all this other stuff. But if you can't, you can't. Sometimes you got to be honest with yourself. And it's okay to say, I can't do this right now. It's okay to say, I can't do this right now. We have to understand how much we can do. Understand how much you can do so you can understand how much you need to take on. Because if you begin to take on too much, oh boy, you finna fuck your shit up. Understand what your limits are when it comes to working and stuff like that. So when things get wild, you can understand when to say no. You understand when to say no, how to say no, and just, I can't take all this because I have to control this. I have to get this done. This is all I have. Period. This is all I can do right now. This is all the food that I can chew. Right? Don't want to take on more than you can chew or you can choke. Right? So don't take everything in life too serious. Figure out how to laugh more. Figure out in areas in which you can laugh more. Man, I remember the last situation, and Keith and Didier's gonna laugh at this. Like, we got into the accident outside. I accidentally backed up into my boy's Didier car, his old car, and I thought he was gone. everybody was laughing except me. But once I got out and looked at it and realized it wasn't that bad, I started laughing too. Like, we got to understand, even in situations like that, in which things could possibly go bad, we have to laugh. Because if we're not laughing, things will get all the way bad. You're going to think people are personally attacking you when that's not the case. You're going to begin to think that everything is falling to shits when that's not the case. You're going to begin to stress yourself out when that's not the case. You're going to begin to feel as if the whole weight of the world is on your shoulder when that is not the case. What's the problem is you're taking this whole situation way too seriously. We're asking way too many questions. Sometimes we just have to be okay with being okay. We have to say okay when things happen. We have to learn how to laugh. We have to learn how to just take things the way they are. Because as long as nobody is putting their hands on you, as long as it's not a personal attack on you, as long as nobody is outwardly disrespecting you to your face and cursing you out and making you look like the fool and all this other shit, what's the point to laugh? And 9 times out of 10, when certain individuals attack others, it's because they have something going on within themselves, right? So figure out how to laugh at everything. Laugh at more stuff. Don't take everything too serious. Don't stress, because at the end of the day, everything is gonna work out. Everything is gonna work out. So, moving on to the main topic of the actual show. I said it earlier, right? Habits. How do our habits and mental health affect each other, right? How can our habits lead to a positive mental health? How can our habits lead to a negative mental health, right? Because as I said earlier, right, I believe we could habitually fall into depression. I believe we could habitually fall into an addiction, right? Because it all starts from somewhere. Right? No matter where it's at, you take that one sip. It all starts with that one sip, or that one puff, or that one whatever, and then it just goes on from there. That turns it into an addiction. Same with depression, right? If we just always just stay in the house, get up, don't do anything, stay in the house, stay on our phone, isolate, stay away from people. If that's just our norm, and then something smacks us in the face, we're going to fall into our norm, which is, I'm just going to stay with myself. Right? So that habit can create a bigger problem on the back end. So it's important that we understand, where these habits come from. It's important that we understand where these habits come from, what benefits are coming from these, habits, and how can we actually begin to replace, not eliminate, replace these negative habits, right? So one of the first things I want to speak about when it comes to habits is understanding the importance of neuroplasticity. If I said it right, understanding the importance of neuroplasticity, right? All neuroplasticity is our brain creating different neural pathways throughout our life, right? Our brain changes and creates new pathways to do certain things within our life, based upon our experiences, right? Based upon our experiences, based upon our behavior, based upon certain trauma, based upon our habits, based upon everything that goes on within our life, our brain is going to create a certain pathway, a certain neural pathway, so that's how our brain is going to function, right? The reason why that is so important, right, is because we have to be able to understand that sometimes when we're trying to get rid of and try to eliminate a bad habit or trying to start something new, one of the reasons why it's so hard is because of that. You are literally going against your brain. You are literally going backwards on a one-way street. You are literally going the wrong way on a one-way street, right? That's what that neural pathway is. An example would be, let's say, before this whole social media thing, nobody would immediately get on their phones the first day they wake up in the morning. I even myself get on my phone the first time I wake up in the morning. But nobody used to immediately get on their phone the first time they wake up in the morning. But because of social media and a number of other things, we've created that habit. So when we don't do that, we feel a little weird. we feel a little weird because our brain is immediately going towards that. As soon as we open our eyes, that pathway of opening or of pulling up your phone, that's what our brain is telling us to do. And when we don't do what our brain is thinking that we're supposed to do, we begin to feel weird. We begin to feel low. Our self-esteem begins to get put in check. We start to hear negative self-talk. All these things start to get put on, right? It's like anything else, right? If we're trying to create something new, we're literally going against that pathway, right, that was created in our brain, right? So one of the things that's important to understand, just as you could create that pathway, right, you also could replace it with something else, right? And as I said, neuroplasticity, that's your brain creating pathways over time based upon things that happen within your life, based upon experiences, trauma, habits, things that you see, anything. So just as if we can create, just as we have negative pathways within our brain, we can also have positive pathways in our brain, right? So that's going to be built through the exercise. That's going to be built through meditation. That's going to be built through positive self-talk. That's going to be built through not taking stuff too seriously, as I spoke about within the self-care piece, right? All of that stuff is going to be built through the positive habits that we have to create, right? We have to start there, right? So moving back into this whole topic of habits, right? Why are negative habits created? Two things: stress or boredom. Stress or boredom creates negative habits, right? We can be bored, so I'm just going to stay here, stay on my phone, not go outside. Ain't nothing going on outside, so I'm going to stay here, stay on my phone. I'm finna just watch Netflix. And we're going to be in that habit today. And then, yesterday was cool, so I'm going to do it today too. And the day before yesterday was cool, I just chilled. We're going to fall into that too, right? It's like sometimes directly after work, you go home, you immediately go to sleep. Or directly after work, you go home, you immediately sit down on the couch, eat whatever. That's the habit that you've created. So if you do anything outside of that, you're not going to feel right, right? So boredom could create some of these habits, negative habits. Stress, right? Those individuals who bite their nails, those individuals who stress eat, those individuals who drink or take some form of drugs, those individuals who isolate, those individuals who cry, those individuals who do whatever they have to do to deal with their stress, right? Stress is going to create something. The reason why those negative habits are created under stress is because that stress gives us some type of benefit, right? So drinking that alcohol gives us relief. Smoking that cigarette when we're stressed out. A lot of people smoke cigarettes when they're stressed. Smoking that cigarette when we're stressed out gives us that relief that we're looking for, right? Gives us that coping skill, right? Smoking is a coping skill. Doing alcohol and doing drugs is a coping skill. Another reason why a lot of these bad habits are created or there is because they're learned behavior, right? If I see that my mom deals with her bad habits by smoking, I might just start smoking too. If I see that my dad deals with his negative habits by drinking, I'm finna be drinking too, right? Because that's what I know. And because I know that when something negative's happened, I'm going to go right to that. So it's a learned behavior. So these are some of the reasons why, negative habits are formed. Boredom, stress, or it's a learned behavior. Boredom, stress, and learned behavior. And it's important to understand that these habits can and will eventually open up the door to something else. Just as a positive habit such as working out, dieting correctly, eating correctly, reading every day, meditating, speaking positive things into existence, putting all that positive stuff into the atmosphere, positive self-talk. Just as those positive habits could create something positive, the negative habits could create something negative, right? So we want to understand that what I'm doing right now is eventually going to lead into something else. So pay attention to the things that you're doing unconsciously. Pay attention to the things that you're doing every single day, because we don't really know what we're doing every single day. We're not really conscious of the things that we're doing every single day until somebody calls us on that shit, right? For me, I didn't even really realize that sometimes I was very kind of arrogant, right? I would just say shit. I would just say positive. I would just say that, like, yo, Willis is the shit. Willis is going to do whatever. Willis is going to conquer this. Willis is this and that. And I didn't know that until somebody brought it to my attention. I didn't know that sometimes I can be a little touchy-feely, if that's the right word, right? I believe in touch. So I hug a lot. I hug a lot of women a lot. I touch you on your shoulder. I'll touch you on your back. And one of my friends in college, one of her friends in college, she brought it to my attention. Willis, you're not doing this in a negative way, but sometimes you use your hands to try to, a lady's a little too soft, right? I didn't know that. That goes right back into the habits that you were doing today. You may not know what you're doing until somebody calls you up on it. So try to monitor your habits. Try to monitor the things that you're doing throughout that day, right? So you can understand how your negative habits can lead to something else, right? So when it comes to actually trying to figure out how to break these negative habits, right? First things first, it's exactly what I said, right? We have to define what that negative habit is. Define what that negative habit is, right? Define what it is. Define where it came from. Is it a learned behavior? Is it due to stress? Is it due to boredom? Is it due to whatever? If it's due to boredom, get up and go do something. If it's due to stress, figure out what you're stressing over. If it's a learned behavior, figure out how to break that learned behavior, right? Figure out exactly what that negative habit is. Figure out how to define that. Right? And understand that we can't really eliminate a negative habit. We more so have to replace it. So once we figure out what that negative habit is, like say for instance, you bite your nails. Say you bite your nails when you stress out and you're trying to bite your nails less, right? First and foremost, it's very, very hard for people to just go cold turkey on anything. It's hard for people to just stop smoking cigarettes. It's hard for people to just immediately make the switch from eating meat to being a vegetarian or a vegan. It's hard for people to do anything, right? Just immediately. So keep track of something and gradually fall off of what you're doing. Titrate. That's the word we use within the medical field or psychiatric field, mental health field, in the hospital. Titrate off whatever you're doing, right? So if you're biting your nails and you're trying to stop biting your nails, monitor how many times throughout the day you bite your nails. Keep a small little piece of paper and a pen in your pocket and write it down. Hey, I bit my nails 5 times today. Okay, bet. Tomorrow, let's try to bite our nails 4. Or that week, let's try to bite our nails 4 times that week. Then go down to 3, then go down to 2. We just have to be conscious of the things that we're doing and monitor our behavior when it comes to that. Because if you're paying attention when your nails are going into your mouth, you're most likely going to be like, nope. Let me stop. Right? So first, define what that trauma is. Define what that habit is. Figure it out. Figure out how you can dial back on that habit on a day-to-day schedule. Right? And understand that we have to understand that we're not going to replace that habit. Understand we're not going to eliminate that habit, but understand that we're going to replace it with something positive. Right? So one of the ways we can be able to replace a negative habit with something positive is one, understand what's the benefit that's coming from that negative habit. Right? My man Didier, he said he glad he stopped smoking. Now correct me if I'm wrong, Didier, one of the benefits that you got from smoking was a sense of relief. Right? You would stress and was a sense of relief. Right? You would stress when work is heavy or whatever the case may be. Right? You would smoke when you're stressed out. If smoking is giving you that sense of relief, figure out what else you could do to be able to give you some form of relief. Right? So when you're feeling stressed, go walk outside and just let the sun hit your face. Take some deep breaths. Right? Go to a corner, a small little space, knock out some push-ups real quick. That form of knocking out push-ups, that thing is called exercising, but the technical thing for it when it comes to stress and using that as some form of coping skill, muscle relaxing, something like that, I don't know. But when you relax your muscles and you tense your muscles and you flex it and then you just let it go, it's going to send a relieving feeling throughout your body, right? So if smoking is relieving your stress, that reward from stressing, that benefit from stressing is the relief, right? That benefit from smoking is the relief that smoking gives you. So figure out what you can do in order to calm down, right? Because at the end of the day, that's really what it is. Dennis said he still drinks. Yeah, I still drink too, my man. But everything is good in moderation. And we have to understand that when it comes to drinking, what are we drinking for? What are we drinking for? Are we drinking to escape something? Are we drinking to give us some form of stress? Are we just drinking casually so we can just have fun? Me, I only drink casually, right? I'm naturally a quiet person, even when I'm in, even more so when I'm in environments in which there's a lot of people. I'm not the social worker that's really extroverted like that. Like, nah, I don't really like people like that. So a way for me to be able to function well within some form of environment, whether it's dancing and all this other stuff, I have to drink, right? I have to drink. Now, if I'm around a bunch of people that I feel comfortable with, I don't have to drink. I sit there, talk shit, be my normal self, all that good stuff. But if I'm out in public and we're in the club or whatever, let me take a few shots or two or whatever just to get loose, right? So if it's in that situation, okay, cool. Getting loose is my reward from drinking. But if you're drinking or smoking or doing drugs or biting your nails or isolating or whatever, if whatever you're doing is giving you some type of reward, figure out what that reward is so you can figure out how to replace that with something positive. Because everything that drinking is giving you, you can get that somewhere else. Right? You can get that somewhere else. Now, obviously, if you're using some form of substance to get away from whatever situation it is, obviously, I would say go to therapy, seek some help, and do all that other stuff. But we're just speaking about habits, right? And drinking can start from a drinking addiction, being addicted to some form of substance. It starts off as a habit, right? This is the one thing that I was doing because I felt stressed, and I tried it. Right? It could be a learned behavior from my friends or from my family members. My homeboy is going through nonsense and he smokes, so I'm going through nonsense. Man, let me hit that blunt. Let me hit the blunt. And once I hit the blunt, I feel a little better. Okay. Then I do it again. Okay. Then I do it again. Okay. Then I do it over and over. Then next thing we know, we're doing it not just for the sake of I'm stressing. We're just doing it just because. Right? And it's hard to stop that habit. Once the cravings and everything starts to come on, so we got to figure out what we can do, right? So figuring out what that negative habit is what's the benefit of that negative habit? Figure that out. Once we do that, another thing we have to be able to do is cut out all triggers. What is triggering me to do this behavior? Is it people? Is it place? Is it a smell? Is it, I don't know, my auntie? Is it this car? Is it this job? Is it my girlfriend? Is it my boyfriend? Is it whatever? Is it the fact that I'm broke? Is it the fact that Netflix got some dope whatever it is, right? Figure out what triggers that negative behavior. Figure out what triggers that habit. Once you figure out what that trigger is, start knocking out that trigger. If it's this person, right? I don't know. Keith is in the comments. So if Keith was my negative trigger, I'm going to cut you out, homie. Because you're causing me to do negative things. You're causing me to create a negative habit. And that's going to cause me to start other stuff. So I'm going to have to cut you out, homie. If my job, if my job is doing something, if my job is one of those triggers that's causing me to create these negative habits, obviously I'm not going to tell you to go ahead and sit there and quit your job. No. But figure out what you could possibly do in order to be a little bit less stressed at your job. So, for instance, my job and the changes that are going on at my job right now, it causes a lot of my coworkers to be stressed, run around frantic, all this other stuff. I always tell them, leave, get off of the unit, go outside, get away from this work, don't see another patient, leave, go outside, take a breath. Take 5 minutes, take 10 minutes, whatever. Go do what you have to do. So just calm down, right? Go do what you got to do to calm down, right? So the second you feel yourself, right? If you're biting your nails, the second you notice your finger in your mouth, stop and go outside. Stop and go somewhere else. Go take a break, right? No matter if the work is there, the work is going to be there regardless. Work ain't going nowhere. go take a break, right? That way you can be able to be more productive, because you're not going to be as productive as you possibly could be if you're sitting there all stressed out. It's not going to work. So go do what you have to do, right? So the second you feel stressed in any type of area, go bounce, go leave, whether if it's work, right? So figure out what that trigger is. Figure out that trigger is. Another thing, the last thing we need to make sure we do is keep track of our bad habits, right? Figure out, that actually goes back into the first one, which is define your bad habits, but keep track of our bad habits. How many times are we doing this? So we can begin to cut back, so we can begin to titrate off of our negative habits, right? Figure out what it is, right? So that plan that I want you to understand is that you have to figure out what that bad habit is, define it, cut out all triggers, right? Figure out what you can replace that bad habit with, because you can't really eliminate it. What's the benefit that's coming from that bad habit, and like I said, keep track of it. But above everything else, the one thing you got to understand is that patience and consistency. Be patient first, right? What they say, like, it takes like 90 days to create a habit or start a new habit or start a new life, whatever it is, right? It takes time. Just as I was speaking earlier about neuroplasticity, right? It takes time for that neural pathway to be created in your brain, right? And when we're trying to, let's say, create a lifestyle out of working out, let's say if we're trying to get in the habit of working out every single day, if we've never done that in our life, it's going to be hard. Like I said earlier, we're going the wrong way on a one-way street, right? You are literally going against your brain. You are literally going against that neural pathway that is in your brain, right? But you can create something new and get rid of that negative pathway, get rid of that negative habit by consistently going every single day. Because whenever we go to the gym, right, the first thing our brain do is come up with every single reason as to why I should not go to the gym. Come up with all of it. So the second you come up with those things, just go. Don't sit there. Don't pay them any attention, right? Don't listen to them. Don't respond. No, just go. Because our brain is trying to do what's comfortable. The second we're trying to get off of these habits that we've created, the second we're trying to get away from the things we've always done, that's our brain like, oh no, you tripping. Get back to what you know. Stay on the path that I've created for you and continue to do that, right? So it's important to understand that our negative habits that we do today can and will affect our mental health. These negative habits that we have today could possibly be the onset or possibly trigger some form of depression. Because if you already have a habit of isolating and then life smacks you in the face, life gives you that middle finger, oh, it ain't going to be nothing much for you to go back and still isolate, right? And it's going to be 1,000 times harder to get out of that, because you're not only beating depression, you're also beating that habit, right? Sometimes, I was reading this one thing, what it is, I actually wrote it down. Let me make sure I get to it. Where is it at? I wrote something down. It was dope. Oh, it said this. In depression, there's nothing fundamentally wrong with the brain. It's simply the particular tuning of neural circuits creates the tendency toward a pattern of depression, right? It has to do with the way our brain deals with stress, planning, habits, decision-making, dozens of things, the dynamic interaction of all of these circuits. And once the pattern starts to form, it causes dozens of other tiny little changes going throughout the day. Right? That was kind of interesting to me, because it's like I said, when it comes to depression, we always speak about this chemical imbalance, right? But we never really speak about how our depression is nothing more but behaviors that we've created over time, right? So if our brain is creating these neural pathways if our brain is creating these neural pathways based upon our behavior, based upon the things that we're doing, obviously it's going to be 10 times harder to get out of that, right? There's no one medicine that can help that. There's no one anything that can help that. The only thing that can help that is consistency and patience. Consistently going towards it. Well, consistently going the opposite direction of whatever that neural pathway or whatever that negative habit is, right? So understand that. So moving on to the main, not the main, but the question that I always like to leave everyone off with. And as always, I never come up with the question. I always I never write the question down. I always come up with the question within the show because I like the vibe and the feeling of the show that actually gives me the question. So, when it comes to these negative habits, when it comes to how our habits can affect our mental health, it's a simple question. What negative habits are you doing now? What negative habits are you doing now? What negative habits are you into now? So me, and I've actually done something to actually try to change that right now. Me, right? And I actually was talking to Didier about this early on, is that I've really fell off when it comes to exercising, right? I'm trying to get back into that because it was that's a part of my life that helps me out with stress, right? And I'm starting to feel bad that one week I would be super duper consistent. Oh, I'm good. I'm about to go 3, 4, 5 times this week. Next week I won't go at all, right? Because one of the things that I was doing is I would go home. I would be like, okay, I'm going to go home. I'm going to change. I'm going to eat real quick. Take a quick little shit. But I'm going to change, eat real quick, go do what I got to do, then get up and leave. But the second I get in that house and I sit down on that bed, it is over. Right? That's a habit that I've created, and that's a habit that I'm trying to get out of. So one of the things that I did was I got a new membership at a gym that I literally have to pass by every single day. I'm going to work or I'm leaving from work, right? So every time I pass by that gym and I don't pull into that parking lot, I'm going to start to feel bad, right? That's my way of holding myself accountable. Because if I don't go into that gym, Didier was laughing at me about this earlier. If I don't go into that gym, I immediately start to go into like that negative self-talk mode. I start to call myself a bitch. I start to call myself you worthless. I start to say all of these things, right? These are all these things that I tell myself. Now, it helps me, right? It's weird, but me calling myself a bitch helps me out because I ain't no bitch. And if I take that mindset everywhere, that's the one way that allows me to keep moving forward. But I've had to figure out how to break that habit of going home and just sitting down. So I put myself in a position where I have to pass at the gym I go to every single day, right? So what are your negative habits right now? Figure out how you can break them, because your negative habits will lead into something ridiculous, or it could lead into something great, man. So as always, thank you, Keith, for tuning in. Thank you, Didier, for tuning in. Thank you, everyone who is listening but did not comment, for tuning in. If you're listening to this tomorrow, later on in the week, sometime next year, whenever, thank you for tuning in. If you won't be listening to it at all, thank you for not listening in, because that gives me the ability to know that, hey, even though you aren't listening now, you will listen and you will catch on eventually. As always, my name is Willis Cooks. This is Chillwood Radio. Chillwood Radio. Always understand, ain't no wealth without your mental health. So please stay blessed and take care of yourself. Be great, y'all. Peace.